What's up, you guys? My name is Zeta and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm so glad that you are here, and today I'm going to be sharing with you some of the things that I wish I knew before taking organic chemistry. If you are a science major and you have to take organic chemistry, I'm sure you've been told horror stories about organic chemistry, how it is a GPA killer, how it is extremely hard, and is just nearly impossible to get an A in. And so I'm here to tell you, as someone who's taken organic chemistry 1 and 2, I'm here to tell you all of my advice from the mistakes that I learned after taking it. When I took organic chemistry, I didn't do my best. I didn't think it was that bad, but it definitely has some unique challenges, and I did not do the best that I could have done looking back. And so I want to share with you what I know now, how I could have done better, in hopes that you can do better and get an A in the class. Because I ended up with B's in both organic chemistry 1 and 2, and I ended up having to actually reteach myself organic chemistry, and I just wish that I had done it right the first time around. And so I'm going to be sharing with you all of the things that I now know that I wish I would have done earlier when I was in organic chemistry 1, so that way when you get to organic chemistry you can fly through it and do extremely well. Now, this piece of advice I'm going to share with you, I am telling you, is the most important thing that I'm going to be talking about in this whole video. It's to pay the most attention the first half of your Organic Chemistry 1 course. The first half of Organic Chemistry 1, in my opinion, seems very easy. It seems very easy because you just go over nomenclature and just the principles of organic chemistry. What is organic chemistry? What is an acid? What is a base? What is a nucleophile? What is an electrophile? And you go a little bit into orbital theory, and just you kind of learn a bunch of random things that all relate to organic chemistry, and you just kind of hear about it and you're like, yeah, no, I kind of know that. It seems very straightforward is what I'm trying to get at. And so in my first organic chemistry class, I really slacked off the first half, where I just thought it was easy, so I didn't really study and I just kind of listened in lecture. And I am telling you, that is the most important thing in Organic Chemistry 1 and 2, because what they are teaching you is the entire basis for the rest of the course, including Organic Chemistry 2. So that first half, all of the principles that they teach you is everything that you're going to need for the rest of organic chemistry. So honestly, I would just hammer and study really hard in the front. That way you don't have to study as much in the later half of the course and in organic chemistry too. Because all of my friends that really understood how to tell something's a nucleophile and how to tell something's an electrophile. If this sounds like gibberish to you because you haven't taken organic chemistry yet, just wait. When you get in there, suddenly you're gonna realize when you hear those words, you're gonna be like, yep, I remember Zeta told me this is what I need to study now. When you get into organic chemistry, study really hard in the first 3 months of the course, because that is going to set the entire basis and foundation of what you know about organic chemistry. If you study really hard in the first 3 months, it's going to set such a strong foundation for the later half of the course and organic chemistry 2 that is going to be crucial for you in order to do well in Organic Chemistry 1 and 2. And then this kind of leads me into my next point. If you have a good foundation, you won't have to memorize reactions, which are in the later half of the course and in Organic Chemistry 2. Really, all of the foundation you learn is to set the stage for you to be able to understand reactions and how they work and be able to predict what is the product of this reaction. If I give you a product, could you tell me the reactants? Because you should be able to actually understand how the reaction works, because you understand the principles and the foundations of organic chemistry. Now, I know this may sound confusing, but especially in Organic Chemistry 1, you can kind of get away with this, where it is very easy to want to try and memorize every reaction. I'm telling you, when you get to Organic Chemistry 2, you will have so many reactions, it is almost impossible to memorize. Plus, if you do the memorization route, if they give you something that looks remotely different as a reactant or a product, or they ask you something that's just slightly different, you're not gonna know how to answer the question because you've been memorizing only certain types of reactions that look a certain way, instead of actually understanding how does this work. That is why I'm telling you, studying in the front half of organic chemistry, I will keep beating that into your head because I wish somebody would have beat that into my head, that understanding the principles of organic chemistry sets the entire stage and will help you actually understand why the reaction's even happening in the first place. You'll actually understand why when you add this reagent does it do this reaction, because you'll understand what is going on instead of just memorizing, oh, this does that. Because I'm telling you, you will have so much information thrown at you that you just can't memorize it. You need to actually understand what's happening. So I wish somebody had told me that. As far as when it comes to studying, I wish I would have done this sooner, which is using a whiteboard and drawing out full arrow mechanisms of every reaction. When you get to the point where you are learning reactions, you need to practice just drawing out reactions on a whiteboard. It doesn't have to be on a whiteboard, it could be on a paper too, but I would just practice drawing them out and doing all of the curved arrows. You won't get questions where you'll have to do curved arrows on everything, where you have to show where the electrons move, but I'm telling you right now, it is a lifesaver if you actually understand the curved arrow mechanism for all of your reactions, because then that way you don't have to worry about it if they ask you about it. And I'm telling you, you'll have a much easier time being able to predict products and being able to understand how the reactions are working, being able to understand if you were given a product, how to get the reactant, or the other way around. If you can actually draw out every single curved arrow mechanism for all of your reactions, I would just practice that. Another thing that seems extremely obvious, but I did not do, and I wish I did sooner, because whenever I started to do this, it actually helped me so much, and I wish I had done it in Organic Chemistry 1. Instead, I waited for Organic Chemistry 2 to start doing this, which was actually reading the textbook. I know that seems crazy. Of course you should read the textbook, right? I know you went through some classes where you ordered a textbook and you got it and you never opened it once, and you did just fine because the textbook usually would be super detailed and kind of out of touch from the class. When it comes to organic chemistry, the textbook, at least the textbook that I used, I don't know if it's different per college on what textbooks they use, at least the textbook I used was so helpful. It was so easy to read, and it was very clear on what was going on and what I needed to know on exams. So for me, I really recommend reading the textbook, because once I started to read the textbook, I actually realized how easy it is to read and how easy our textbook that at least we use at our college for our organic chemistry courses was very helpful and very good at teaching, and it made a lot of sense. All the examples they used too were really helpful. So I would recommend at least just trying to take a look at your textbook, and if it looks like gibberish, then you can look past that. But I know for me, I didn't even try opening my organic chemistry textbook until Organic Chemistry 2. So if I could go back to Organic Chemistry 1, I would say open that textbook real early and start reading early on. Because it is actually really helpful, and it honestly probably would have saved me a lot of heartache had I just opened up that textbook earlier and started teaching myself a lot sooner. Another thing when it comes to studying that I found really useful is Organic Chemistry Tutor. I know everyone who's taken organic chemistry usually says to watch those videos, but there's a reason. Honestly, they're really helpful. I really enjoyed watching his videos. I usually would just look up whatever I struggled with, or sometimes if I just needed to review a concept like resonance structures or a certain type of reaction like Grignard reactions, I would watch him go through a bunch of examples because he usually does the curved arrow mechanisms for all of the reactions he goes through, and he's pretty good at explaining and giving really good examples of organic chemistry problems that I found extremely helpful with getting familiar with the material and just getting some good practice. What I usually did was I would play one of his videos and then I would try to work out the problems on my own. Like I would pause the video, work out the problem, and then play it through to see if I got it right. And if I got it wrong, then I would just try to practice another. That way you actually get good practice at being able to do problems on your own and really get an understanding of the material and how it would look on a test so that you are able to do reactions on your own, drawing structures, naming structures. He really covers the entire course very well. I would definitely recommend checking out that channel if you like to watch YouTube videos when you study. I know I do. I find them very helpful. I know everyone says to watch his videos, but it's because they are pretty helpful. And then the last thing that I want to talk about is when it comes to the naming component in organic chemistry, where you have to name structures, I would definitely recommend reviewing your IUPAC naming very frequently. I would recommend practicing and reviewing IUPAC naming consistently throughout the course, because I know for me, it depends on your instructor and how they organize their class, but for me, I know naming was super heavy in the beginning of Organic Chemistry 1, and then we kind of stopped doing that. We would do it here and there sometimes, but we would focus more on reactions and other aspects in organic chemistry. But then when I got to Organic Chemistry 2, there was naming a lot all throughout. And so I would just recommend, when it comes to the naming and just drawing structures, just to try and keep that up to date. If you feel like you haven't practiced that in a while, definitely just review that often, because there is a lot of material when it comes to the naming component, and it honestly is just a lot of practice that you just need in order to get good at naming. So I would just recommend getting in that repetition of naming harder structures and different kinds of structures that look different, and even sometimes like different kinds of naming, because you have the IUPAC naming, but there's also other naming systems. So depending on what your instructor usually tests you on, I would just get familiar and get a lot of repetition with the naming and getting familiar with structures. I know for me, sometimes I like to practice whenever I would do reactions, even though the point of the problem is just to predict a product or to draw a reaction mechanism. I would try to name the reactant and product anyway, even though that's not necessarily part of the problem, just so you can get that repetition so that you are familiar with naming any kind of structure. So these are just a couple of tips and advice. If you are about to go into organic chemistry, this is just some of the things that I wish I had known going into organic chemistry. Do not be scared. I know so many people were telling me organic chemistry is so hard. Oh my gosh. I didn't think it was easy, but it is just like every other class. I will tell you that much. It is just like every other class. Yes, it is new material. Yes, it is challenging because it is new. It may be something you're not used to. It's just something that you have to learn how to study, and you have to learn what systems work for you. You have to understand the basics. You have to practice your naming and reaction schemes, and that is what you're going to need in order to get an A and be successful in organic chemistry, just like that is something you're going to need in order to be successful in any class. You're just going to have to understand how to handle new material and how to study for it. So I would not stress out thinking that, oh my gosh, this class is going to kill my GPA. It is hard. It is not easy by any means, but it is very manageable. And I want you to know you can definitely get an A in organic chemistry, and it is very doable. You just have to be disciplined and study early on, understand the basics, and be consistent with your studying with it, and just stick with it. Ultimately, you're going to do so well in organic chemistry, and you are going to crush it. So that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I am praying for you, and I hope that you do amazing this year in your classes. And as always, I hope you have an amazing day. Please like and subscribe, and please leave a comment down below on what video ideas that you want to see from me next. And as always, I hope you have an amazing day. I love you guys. Bye!